une jolie fille d'un lion. Il y a une jolie fille, elle est jolie, parfaite en beauté, qu'elle a charmé. Elle a charmé le cœur d'un grenadier. Bon grenadier, amène-moi dans ta chambre. Bon grenadier, amène-moi dans ta chambre. Oui, dans ma chambre, je t'emmènerai et je te donnerai et je te donnerai le cœur d'un grenadier. Et l'autre amant qui est à la porte qui écoute. Et l'autre amant qui est à la porte qui écoute. Croisant ses bras, jetant la vue au ciel, se dit grand Dieu. Se dit grand Dieu que je suis malheureux. D'avoir aimé une aussi jolie fille, et à présent il faut l'abandonner. Oh oui, grand Dieu, grand Dieu. Oh oui, grand Dieu, que je suis malheureux. Va ta chagrin, va ta mélancolie, va ta chagrin, va ta mélancolie, va-t'en plus loin, ne reviens plus à moi, puisque mon cœur, puisque mon cœur, puisque mon cœur, puisque mon cœur, il ne veut plus de toi.
The nation is under siege. The nation is under siege.
No. Good evening, everybody. It only gets worse. This is Divided We Stand on YouTube and on Facebook. If you're unfamiliar with this page, we are actively fighting the Trump administration and the Republican Party. We've been doing this since 2015 or so. So we ask that you subscribe to our channel and also become a member of our Facebook group page. We're not monetized. We refuse to be monetized. There's really no need. So we're not looking for anything but your effort and your commiseration. That's it. Well, it's April the 13th. We've got a lot to talk about tonight. And it's more of the same, but it's more intense. So we ask that you hang around, that you participate, because again, we are only really facilitators when it comes down to it. So we really, really hope that you will take part, as usually happens on Sunday evening. So please stay with, and if you won't mind, please share, like, and follow, and please hit that little bell so if our videos come up, you'll be notified, or at least you should be notified, at least until YouTube kicks Dave and me off the platform, because we're not making them any money, right? So you're not going to see much of Divided We Stand in the searches for Google or for YouTube, because simply we're not part of their algorithm, right? So the hell with it. We've got a job to do, and we're going to do it. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce my co-host and good friend, journalist, writer, and former educator, and that would be our David Price.
Who's that?
Dave.
Who's that ghost next to me? Oh,
The ghost in the
ghost
machine. Well, Ryan could not make it tonight. He had to do. He had. I guess he had to do a lot of work yesterday, and today he's got to do some shopping because he didn't do it yesterday. And he was nice enough to get a hold of us and told us he'd like to do it.
Well, we'll always miss Ryan. He's a real solid analyst in terms of what's going on, and we could use all the solid analyzing we could get.
Right. I mean,
I'm going more this week. I'm going more for just thinking. It goes back and forth, but I'm going to go more with absurdity and incompetence is what's really got me going this week. The price is always right, Anthony. I tried that once. It was so corny. I was putting together a personal blog, and I had the prices, like apostrophe S, right, WRITE. And somebody came up and said, that is beyond pathetic. So I dropped it, but I'll take it for the prices right. So, Brian, this week, always news, some of the same, but I think what I'd like you to talk about maybe is your feelings about this, because I still don't understand how people continue to support Trump when he's on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. This week he said something about, like, my gut will tell me how to make a decision. So, it's like nothing is permanent, which is kind of good, I guess, because most of his ideas are pretty bad. But it would be nice to have a president who, when he said we're going to turn right, we don't turn left or stop or go straight or go right for a minute. What's your take on that? I mean, is that bothering you? Is it?
Well, I'd like to come about this from an area that I'm not an expert at, but I have done a lot of research, if that means anything. So whatever I say, don't take it as fact. But I think we can agree that there are environmental factors on our behaviors and what we believe, and there's also DNA factors. So, for example, a brother and another brother could have, the same parents and seemingly the same environment, but something slightly different, and then they go this way instead of that way, and this brother does this brother does that. In fact, by the way, I know at birth identical twins have identical DNA for the exception of their fingerprints, but as time goes by, their DNA goes in different directions depending on their diet and things like that. So it absolutely angers me to listen to any Trumper. Sometimes it's funny because they're so ignorant that you just have to laugh. But it's not a laughing matter, because it's kind of like having an ignoramus working at a nuclear power plant, and you
Sort of
say,
Homer. You mean like Homer Simpson?
but you're actually right. Yeah, that was an
I know
episode, wasn't it,
that.
where he did
I
that?
know
Yeah,
that. That's part of it.
and
I
and you
think
don't want that. And I'm at the point now where I'm kind of angry with myself being angry, because how can you be? It's like being angry at a tornado. You can't do much about that. You know what I mean? And you just have to look at it and accept it. Now, of course, I don't mean by accept by doing nothing. But if it is that we can't do something, there has to be a certain acceptance that this is what it is. And I think what's happening is, at a very, very basic level, we have people, for whatever reason, who are wired for a type of thinking. You've mentioned many times, Dave, especially in Christianity, which is so interesting, because you have what you would call, I mean, you yourself, Dave, Christians who follow by the book, and they do love, and they turn the other
Mhm.
cheek, and this and this and that. And they love thy neighbor, treat others as they would have them doing to themselves. And then there are the others, as you've quite astutely mentioned, who take the Old Testament viewpoint and, let's get the whip out and do what you got to do, and 100 plagues or whatever. So no matter what he does, and we're going to talk about the tariffs and all tonight, but Dave, no matter what he does, nothing is unacceptable to them. What is unacceptable is their hatred toward us. There is such a deep distrust and hatred for us. That was, as you've said also, that it's always kind of been there, but he's given them the right to feel good about saying these things. They're feeling good about being stupid. So we're in this situation where I just, he'll burn it down, as he's kind of doing. Although we'll talk about the flip flops and whatnot. But right now, I don't see any figure aside from a communal us to be able to deal with him, or maybe the economics of the country. I don't see a young Bernie Sanders out there aside from AOC, and I don't see her winning. If Hillary couldn't win right now, I don't think she can win. So I'm trying to become a better me at accepting what is happening and be mature about it, without destroying myself. Maybe you can give me some insight.
No. You're just one of millions and millions and millions of people. Um, I've read a lot, as many of us have, and most of it from columnists who either A, are telling the truth, or B, are attacking Trump. I don't spend I mean, I do spend time on Truth Social. I do spend time on X. I do spend some time on Breitbart, just to see what the enemy is saying. And indeed, they are the enemy. I mean, this idea of I can respect, no, I can't respect your views. I can't. I don't want to. If it were up to me, and if it were physically and possible and feasible, I would say, let's divide the country in two. Let's just do that. We'll take our way and run it.
That
And
came
you
up
can
in conversation today, by the way, with my contacts in Russia. They asked me about that. So I want you to
I
elaborate,
want,
because you
well,
had talked why that's impossible.
well, the reason, of course, is that we have so many divisions, but they cross lines. All right. So let's take the original Civil War. And the original Civil War was not between the Union and the North. It was really between Britain and Great Britain and us. I mean, we were part of that. That was a civil war in a sense, and the country was very divided then. All right, but most of the intellectual acumen was on the side of those who wanted to revolt. Also, remember, even back then, they were the wealthy that wanted to break from England. Why? Because they wanted more money. Why? Because Britain was putting on tariffs and taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so ironic. We're back around to that.
Right.
Then we get to the Civil War that we all think of. And that was a little bit easier to fight because you actually had, kind of that Mason-Dixon line, right, division. And although I ran a couple, yes, we will talk about that too, Gary. It's a great point. The idea being that even then there were dissenters. You kind of think, oh, everybody in the North, right, was pro-union, let's go. They really weren't, okay? Many in the North, again, the wealthy, didn't really want to tamper with anything. They didn't care about slavery, they cared about money, right? It was the poorer folk, and out of New England, again, religion reared its head, but this time it reared its head in a good way, of saying that slavery was wrong, and you had the abolitionists, and you had, crazy John Brown, and you had this whole thing going. But I ran across a book I never, well, a lot of books I haven't seen, but, and it was the dissenters in the South. I never really thought of that, right? So you have dissenters in the South back then. So how does that? But again, you pretty much had this dividing line, between in geographics. Today, you have no geography. There are Trumpers everywhere, and there are anti-Trumpers everywhere. Right. And if anybody doesn't believe that, look at where last week, this time, we were talking a lot about the hands-off movement and the protests, and they were all 50 states had them. Montana's wasn't as big as New York City's, of course, but by the same token, I live in a heavily blue area, but there's still I can walk out and find a Trumper or two around, sometimes by their hat or something else. So I think we'll never reach that point where we could sit down and say, what would you do, Brian? Okay, let's just take a hypothetical that makes absolutely no sense.
We're always cool for a thought experiment here.
So, if you were to say where is the most anti-Trump state feeling in America, it would be on the West Coast, right? Mm-hmm. And on the East Coast.
Right.
The East Coast,
the cities, the large cities too.
But I'm just saying in general that's
the coasts and the cities.
Right. So, let's say we wanted to reverse the thing and we want to join with Canada, all right? Just make this big, we'll work with them. Well, you just named why we can't do that. What are you going to do with Chicago? What are you going to do with St. Louis?
Well, you have to know that Canada is doing something interesting. They have said that they are going to give breaks for trade between the two countries to blue states. Yeah, and I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, I think
because this is essentially Trump's doing that against us. Now it's another country doing it to him.
So far, Mrs. Wisham, my ninth grade civics teacher, I know it'll horrify her if she were still alive. She'd be high 216 if she were still on the planet. But she was very pro-American, and that's how we looked at it. And most of us, I think most Americans, really thought we were kind of at the top, not in every way, but we're kind of the top country. And what we're finding out, Canada's cleaning our clock. They are doing great things. Who do you think got Trump to pause on the tariffs?
Right.
Mexico with we can't get a female in office. Mexico president, she is phenomenal with what she's doing. And they haven't even reached out yet. I mean, the European countries.
And she's an intellectual, which Republicans don't like that.
Well, absolutely. I mean, maybe. I'm going to go on record right now as saying, and we could have a dumb off. I'll even pay $1 to watch it. Donald Trump is the dumbest head of state in the world today. not necessarily in the world of all time, maybe, but today. And in a battle of without weapons, I'll take somebody who's smart every day of the week over somebody who's dumb.
Right.
Okay, let's see what Anthony has. Friday, a tech guy was at our home doing diagnostic. He's here on a visa from Ukraine. He told me his father's stuck here with no way out. I told him I hated Trump. Yeah, Anthony, I think, when I look at things, it changes, not daily, but week. You know what really got to me this week, Brian, was the deportation, the continuing deportation. And you know what really bothered me more than anything else?
What's that?
Was the fact that not that they're just being ripped from the streets, not that they're just being housed in inhumane conditions, but the fact that the motherfucking guards are wearing masks.
Now, are they
What's
showing
up
videos
with
of this? Are they kind of cutting that out?
No, well, they can't get videos out. They've got some pictures out. But again, ladies and gentlemen, and boys and girls, as we say, yeah, that could be. You're right. The Trumpers. Gary knows the area. There's a degenerate gentleman's club right across the street from me. And actually, Gary, to show how in tune you are by spending some time in D.C., I really like the owner of that club, except for one thing. He is a consummate Trumper in economics, right? He just thinks the Democrats put too many rules and restrictions on him. And so, that the guys, again, we all have this. This guy's good, but the but. Remember, we talk about that all the time, right? Once you put a but in there, it doesn't matter. So if the Trump administration were able to bring astronauts stuck in space back, okay, very interesting, okay, T-Bone. Not only that, but they brought those two sex offenders back and gave them a private jet to come back in. There's no way. But I would say this. My challenge to Donald Trump would be this, if I could get to him and if he would listen to me tonight. Donald, listen to me. You claim you're powerful. Are you telling me you're not powerful enough to get one prisoner out of one country? Is that really what you're telling me? And if so, how are you powerful? So
He's trying to challenge the Supreme Court and say, look, order me, and I won't do it.
Brian, there's two things going on, I think. Right, you're one of them. One of them is he is testing. He's beyond testing the waters. He's just seeing what he can get away with. That's one part. The other part is I don't think he wants that guy to come back. Why not? Press conferences, a personal tour, saying what it was.
Right. He could. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Come back and cause a lot of problems.
And so for that reason, in fact, knowing the way Trump operates, I don't know that they might take him out getting on the plane. Who knows? I mean, but that fact of in essence, there were maybe 4 or 5 things that really made America America, right? And one of those was the idea that you were not going to be snatched in the street and put away without a trial. That's really what made America America, one of the things. And that's now gone. Trump has taken that away. So any Trumper out there who thinks they're living in America, you are delusional.
Right.
You are
Dave, I have another point here.
Yeah.
I'll read this and say, I have a very intelligent colleague who sent me, a text about this. Now, I had heard that it needs to be 8 Republicans to join the Democrats, whatever. I know the House and the Senate. But in my opinion, this won't really matter, the 14th Amendment, as far as the getting rid of Trump with the insurrection. Because right now, Trump is an outlaw. The Republicans are outlaws. And even the Supreme Court is essentially an outlaw organization right now. So for us to hope for, and this is not to cast any aspersions on anybody watching the show tonight or my friend, it's just something that we're not going to see. They have no respect for law.
No. And, the irony of all that, in my 73 years on the planet, up until Donald Trump came down the golden escalator in New York, to say, hey, I'm here and I'm going to run for president. The Republicans were the party of law and order. That was just chiseled there. From the day I was born, March 26, 1952, to whatever that day and day was in 2015, where he headed down that escalator, and now we don't. That is true. We haven't even begun to see what can happen. And let's. I was going to finish that thought, but let me jump into there.
Right, continue what you said, because I do want you to finish your thought.
Okay, no. The idea, and I'm going to tie it into yours too. The idea of what do we do? Okay, I mean that's a big question right now. What do all the personal I's do? And I think there are a lot of things that we can do. Number one is to show numbers. Okay, to show. Just first of all, to show that not everybody's in Trump's camp. Now, remember, we should all work with the same basic fact. America right now hasn't really changed that much since the revolution. We're still a third, and a third nation. What do I mean by that? About a third are supporting Trump and the Republicans. About a third are opposing Trump and Republicans. At about a third, we don't know because they didn't vote. All right? So you've got a few things there. First of all, don't fall to that victim. It's half the country and this and that. It's not. Okay. They don't have much more than we do, except they have the guns. You've mentioned that,
right?
Brian, and
Absolutely.
But I don't want to say I don't, because every time.
And by the way, they'll only use them in the sense that Kyle Rittenhouse used them when they had the advantage. If the Chinese invade or the Russian invade, they will be the first to give up their arms.
Oh, no question. Put what Global just said back up. I want to see that for a minute. I kind of been thinking a lot along those lines. Wouldn't this be interesting? Okay, now somebody's gonna say la 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 la. What kind of drugs are you taking now? Wouldn't it be interesting? Right now, so many of us are feeling it's the end, right?
Right.
But the end of a thing also can bring on the beginning of a thing. Correct?
That's correct.
What about if we do survive this? And notice I did say if. We come back with an America that's stronger, because the world has done certain things. They come back, more united, stronger, and maybe we could get some places. Now, will that happen? I don't know, but it is a possibility. My thing right now is we either lose America forever or we will come back. And if we come back, I think we're going to come back a little bit better. I know I will work just as hard, maybe harder, if we get control, to make sure that we don't fuck up.
Lose control, because you see what happens if you lose it.
Now, again, we're talking about things that can kind of give you a smile this week. Whatever. Do you realize, now, granted, they had Joan Baez and Neil Young, but do you realize that yesterday in Los Angeles, and again, it's California, I got that, 36,000 people showed up to see two politicians? Do you know that's never happened? Never happened in the history of America before? Never. Especially two politicians that weren't running for anything. And of course, that was Bernie and AOC. And right now, they have, I think, the most marketable platform out there. Eat the rich. That's really, because honestly, Trump's a buffoon and he's a con man, he's many things. But the oligarchs, some of them are pretty smart. Elon Musk claims, and I guess it's been borne out, that he has a genius IQ. He doesn't act like it, but the oligarchs,
and we don't even know if that's a fact, to be honest with you.
I know. I kind of think it is, probably. I mean, just because Trump, I wouldn't believe at all. Musk lies a lot, but who knows? But anyway, and plus, Trump is one person who relies on Trump. Once in a while, he'll take Stephen Miller's advice. Once in a while, he'll take Steve Bannon's advice. But basically, he keeps his own counsel ever since he had the falling out with Roy Cohn. To my knowledge, Roy Cohn is the only person, including his father, that he ever listened to, ever, on a continuing basis, right? So there's this undercurrent now, anti-Trump. If we can keep that up, that's something to look at and be proud of. The fear. That's look. We know that this is fascism, no question. And there's another F that comes with fascism. Fascism runs on fear. They want us to be afraid of them. Okay? Are you really afraid, honestly? Are you really afraid of Donald Trump? Really?
No, only in the sense that what he
He's
does
president.
has
Yeah,
a great effect on
of course.
me and everybody else.
But I mean, Mussolini. Okay, a lot of comparisons to former Mussolini got the trains to run on time. Hitler realized that Hitler really did not publicize himself. Okay, he went out there and spoke. Trump is all about promotion, and you've got to do some things in secret. The nice thing is he's not doing anything in secret. We know just about everything he's doing, right? Coming back around though, the idea of money is central here. Now, did we pay Salvador money to take the prisoners? There was money involved. I'm not so sure.
Right, they're just not going to take them. I mean, it's obvious.
No, of course not.
It's not the way they play.
There's kickback, kickbacks, the whole 9 yards, to use a cliche, which I shouldn't use. So what you have is a waffling leader,
Impulsive. I think
doesn't
that's
know what
he
he's
is.
doing.
Right.
He's impulsive. He acts that way. Then he tries to come around and say, "Well, that was the plan all along."
Right.
No, it wasn't. Now,
Of course not.
Again, we've said riffs, or I believe, I shouldn't say we have said, I believe riffs in MAGA are good for us. Break it
Always
up.
good, yes.
So I never thought I would agree with Steve Bannon and Laura Loomer, but I did when they came after Musk. And look what's happened, Brian. When's the last time you've heard about Musk? Doing something?
Actually, I haven't heard much about him. I did hear a little bit today that
No.
he was trying to warn Trump not to
Well,
tariff everybody.
What happened is, yes, I mean, so there's a falling out between Musk and Trump, falling out on the other side. I never thought that and I'm not going to praise him much. I'm just saying, for once in your lifetime, you turtle man, you did the right thing. You had the 4 breakaway senators, which could be a start with McConnell, Rand Paul. Excuse me. So that's Kentucky, right? Maybe it's Ryan's influence. I don't know. Maybe Ryan's influencing them. And then you've got Murkowski and you've got Collins. Now, that's going to come out. Really, I think that's going to come out to not work so well in the end, T. But I'm glad you put Christie's name up there. A lot of to do. She's just cosplaying everywhere she goes, right? She does have nice breastises, and that's why a lot of the Trumpers like her. Okay, we don't. But people who know guns, I don't know guns real well, said that you saw that picture where she had the gun. It was actually pointed at the
Right,
guard
somebody's
next to her.
temples.
And it actually had something like it was something like the equivalent of the safety off. So a cough, I mean, she doesn't have any idea with what she's doing. I mean, she shot. Listen, how stupid can a person be to think that writing about killing a dog in a memoir, autobiographical writing that you did yourself, right, is going to play out, and then compound it by saying, "Well, that's not the only thing. I also killed a goat." I mean, come on, Trump only brought her in because he thinks she's cute. That's all, or something like that. So, yep.
Yeah, because it's all based on perception and image, so he's going to have her on.
Yeah. And Anthony, Christy, I mean, you've seen the Christmas card from the Bobart family where everybody's armed. Okay, Merry Christmas to Bobart family. Now, my husband pulls his dick out in front of kids, but that's okay. And I jerk off Kid Rock, but I didn't do it in public, so I'm getting better. I jerked off my last boyfriend in the theater. Let's see, and the list goes on and on.
Sounds like she should have been on White Lotus.
Yeah, I like today. I read across somebody said, "Forget White Lotus. The biggest show right now is White POTUS." I thought that was kind of clever. I said I'm going to steal that one. Did you see? Speaking of what's happening, and I think this is going to piss people off. I hope you're not going to lose too many Trumpers, but piss off. Do you know that Marjorie Taylor Greene made millions last week?
What did she do? Some insider trading, essentially.
You got it.
All right.
She bought. She had the inside information, and she went. And there are a few congressmen now calling for audits,
Not
of
going to happen.
last week. No, it's not. But you look,
You keep the pressure on, but let's never fool ourselves. And you're not. I know you're not, Dave.
oh,
So
no.
you're the
No,
last person.
no. I've been fooled. But the idea of it is, I think quite honestly, we have to make it to the midterms. Okay? Because the midterm elections.
And how are we going to ensure we have safe elections when you have
We're not.
them in control?
I mean, that again, we don't know. What I would say is, I would volunteer. I mean, train everybody and their mother to know what to look for, in a fake election, and see, if we can find it. Now, also, and Ryan's kind of the expert on this show. I've been following a little bit, but not enough. There is credible evidence that Musk's people tampered with the votes after they were cast. Not before, as they were being registered. Now, there's still people working on that, right?
It still bothers me, Dave, when Trump said, "I have plenty of because he projects a lot of things he knows.
That's I don't need your vote. I mean, he said that. Now, what? Nobody in their right mind
Would say that, right?
would say that.
He would say, "I need your vote no matter what," because you never know.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
yeah. So there is his comments. Now this week, living in D.C., it's not like, but you run into people, okay? And I actually it was one of the most fascinating half hours, I think, since I've been here in the 14 years I was here. I was in an eatery, and there was a law officer, happened to be from the Capitol Police, and we were sitting like next to one another. And I just turned to him, as I always do. I said, "Look, you be safe out there, especially the Capitol Police. I mean, that's, they've already been attacked." And that opened the door to a half-hour conversation. Now, I can't say who it was or why I did it. I mean, I'm trying to, but it was some good news and some bad news. We've been talking, Brian, about where do they stand. He said he doesn't understand it, but the Capitol Police are split about 50-50. 50% against Trump.
Well, there you go. I mean,
and 50% for. So I said, well, what does that do? And he said, it means that I work with a lot of stupid people, because I honestly, I welcome any police officer or anybody in law enforcement to come on the show, and I just want to ask him one question: how, given January 6th, do you justify backing Donald Trump?
right.
I don't see the logic to it. Now, what else? It's sometimes the stupid things move. The House, again, another stupid move, passes a voter act that basically says it certainly attacks two groups of people immediately: women and the poor. Ronnie Weinstein was not born. Ronnie Weinstein, is that correct, Brian?
Right.
Okay. She now cannot use her driver's license if that were to become
She
law.
was talking about that a couple of days ago,
Yeah.
right?
Now, okay, the idiots, and I use the term not endearingly, who passed that, yeah, let's make them mad. They don't care. I mean, they don't care about anybody, but they really don't care about women. They really want trad wives. Do you know what that is, Brian? A lot of people
No, I don't.
Okay, it's huge. There's actually whole YouTube channels devoted to a trad wife. And what it is, think for those of us our age, June Cleaver, right? It's going back, and these women, they role play, and they make the bread, and it turns the men on because they're subservient to the men. It's a sexual perversion kind of thing almost. So, but remember, that's what all these conservatives see. They don't realize the Ronnie Weinsteins. They don't realize the Judy Prices. Yeah, I could see Judy Price becoming, hey, I want you to be it's for traditional, of course, trad wife. That would last. I don't even think I get the words out of my mouth before she would attack.
Right.
So, now it goes to the Senate. It needs It needs 60 votes. The Republicans don't have it. It may well die there. But what's happening now is we have to keep, even if it dies, we have to keep reminding people that these Republicans wanted to do this to you. It was, this, you can't let it go. I read this week a couple good things. I don't know if I agree with them all, but one was, stop calling ourselves protesters, start calling ourselves protectors. And what we mean by we're protecting the Constitution. That's really what we're doing. Now it's semantics, and I've talked a lot about semantics before. But another thing that I was talking to a couple people down here, and we were discussing how we feel, and I said, I said, this is just my take on it. I try not to hate, not because it's immoral or amoral or whatever it is. Hate to me just implies I get an acid stomach and it eats me up, literally eats me up. So I use the word despise, and hate, and that works for me. I don't, now people say, well, that's the same thing. No, it's a synonym, but it's different. For me, despise and deplorable work a lot better than hate, because what it says, I hate can be inner-directed too, right? But despise is I'm just coming after you. I'm gonna do everything I can to gum up the works. And remember, it's interesting. We keep pointing out these parallels in history. Unfortunately, there are many to Nazi Germany. Many, many, many. Did you know one that I didn't know this at all. Did you know that Hitler also moved cars as a car salesman, just like Trump did Teslas? The VW.
I don't know. I see this Gary post. I used to like Bill Maher. I don't watch his shit anymore. Bill and Scarborough did the same thing as far as I'm concerned. All he was worried about was the fact that he lost his audience during COVID. It was a personal grievance that he had. So the hell with him. I'm done with Bill Maher, and I'm done with Joe Scarborough.
I'm not saying I'm better than anyone, but I never thought Bill Maher was anybody anyway.
He's intelligent, Dave. He's intelligent, but he put himself ahead.
Of course, he's always done that.
Democratic Party.
He's always done that. And this idea of Bill Maher thinks he's better than you, and he thinks he's better than me, and he isn't. Okay, and he isn't. Bill Maher to me is, he's just a little bit smarter Kid Rock. I mean, once you do that. But that brings up an interesting point. I'm doing a lot. I'm preparing for a new project, and it's going to have to do with 4 subjects: pop culture, politics, excuse me, power, and protest. And it's interesting, Brian. Now, everything we're watching, everything we're hearing, everything we're seeing is being viewed through the Donald Trump filter, right? I mean, it really is. Like, I liked, notice ED, Sylvester Stallone. Now, he is, in essence, a one-trick pony. Rocky was brilliant. It really was. It is one of the 10 best American films of all time. I'd argue that with anybody. But now, when I watch it, he's got a show on, which was kind of goofy, but I mean, just, Tulsa Kings, it was a mob thing. And I don't know if I want to watch second season now, because of that. Here, you've got Dropkick Murphys, the band. I don't know if you saw what they did. That was pretty cool. They challenged, they stopped their show in the middle and challenged a guy with a Trump hat on to kind of a mini debate. And the lead singer for Dropkick Murphys, said, if you win this, I'll put your Trump hat on. If you lose, you have to put one of our Dropkick Murphy shirts on.
By the way, did you notice that Bill Maher did the same thing that Scarborough did when he was challenged? He said he didn't care and fuck them, or fuck you if you don't like what I said. They both said the same thing.
Because, Brian, too, let's be honest, the rich and or famous, and most times they go.
In this case, we'll call it famous, and he has money, but he's not a power broker.
Yeah, but rich and or famous, they are different, and they begin to see themselves differently, and they begin to act differently, and what concerns them doesn't concern us. It's just so we have to. But I it's just now again. Here's another one. At one point, my favorite novel, still in my top 10. I don't know what it rates today. The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. If somebody would ask me the great American novel, I think I would name that as the novel that captures the best of America, modern America anyway. and it just celebrated its 100th birthday, which somebody else celebrated their birthday, but I forget who that was. Anyway, some weird guy, I don't know. But with Gatsby, if you read that, and you know the storyline for anybody who hasn't read it, basically, there's this guy Jay Gatsby who is Donald Trump of the 1920s, right? He really is, except he's a little bit nicer, and he's in love with this girl, and he's Daisy, and she's married, and but they say Tom and Daisy, Tom was her husband, they just broke things, just like today. They were like the rich, you know, didn't care. But now suddenly, most people are thinking of Donald Trump when they read The Great Gatsby. So Trump has he's captured our minds. He's in our heads. There's no question about that, as he should be, though. But he can't. What I don't understand is how he gets in your head as a good guy. But again, about a third of the country. Well, I don't even know. You know what's a very standard line that I hear from people a lot when I'm confronting them with that? Well, I don't agree with everything he says, but
right.
No.
Then you know you're done.
You don't get to pick and choose. You don't.
Right.
Now, I do believe, and this is my personal belief, I believe you can have a professional morality that is different than your personal morality. I do believe that. Some people don't, and they're entitled to that opinion. And for examples, I cite Bill Clinton, I cite Martin Luther King, I cite myself. Okay, certainly there are areas in my personal morality that would go against what I would feel professionally or socially. But with Donald Trump, there's no morality anywhere, so you can't. You just can't pick and choose. Then we've got some questions that are out there too. Where's Melania? Right? Where's Ivanka? Where's Jared? Where's Donnie Jr.?
We know where Ivana is.
Dead?
Yeah, she's on a golf course.
Yeah.
Nobody can find and touch
She might be
her.
the lucky one. No, I'm not. I'm not conspiracy theorist. I'm not reading anything. The one conspiracy that I wish we would do more with. There's still something that smells to high heaven. In so many ways about the Pennsylvania assassination attempt.
Mm-hmm.
That just doesn't pass the smell code to me. It just doesn't. Now, what does that mean? I don't know. Medical experts have said there's no way the bullet could have struck Trump anyway, and he would have healed that fast. Required to read a biography of that candidate. Yeah, well, Anthony, you did.
I don't think we can make that a law, though, Anthony. That's the thing.
No. But what's interesting, Anthony, Donald Trump has never read Art of the Deal either.
Right, because he didn't write it.
No, another insider came out this week, an insider who should be believable, and said it's worse than people have said. He cannot read 2 paragraphs.
Right.
Cannot. Doesn't.
ADD.
And yet, thinking I guess it's a good idea, Melania said, and Trump kind of acknowledged it, that the only book he kept, one of the books he kept by their bedside was Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. Huh? What? You know.
Because I think he's obsessed with power, not so much the fact
Well,
that
he
he was
is.
a
Well,
Nazi.
yeah. No, that's it. He does. See, think about this. If you don't have a moral center, right, which he doesn't, and you don't have a moral compass, which he doesn't, and you don't have a moral governor on yourself, which he doesn't, power by any means necessary, right? Read the fucking room. America's being torn apart right now. Oh, Bill, yeah. People who are disappointed.
And by the way, I heard the people who went against him on the show, he got pissed. That's when he said, "You can all fuck off," or he said, "You're a bad guest." And we don't care. Look, I understand.
No, but think about that. Who else would say that?
Trump.
Donald Trump.
Right.
Yeah, and again, that's what was now. We're talking about things we can do. I really, really admire people who can do economic boycotts, but they're so hard to do. Just because there's so many other avenues in there. Unfortunately, Amazon has everything in the world, right? It ships it to you. I mean, but we can do that. There are people that are doing that. Certainly, it had an impact on Musk and the Teslas, right? So that's good. Now, what we don't know, kind of coming back to Musk now, and looking kind of some of the themes tonight is breaking in the inside breakup. Um, Musk can't stay. He's losing too much money. Would you agree, Brian? I mean, I just don't. I don't think. I just don't see him staying. I mean, he's if nothing else, he's got to go back and kind of restore his business.
You know what?
I
I
think.
have no idea. I have no idea what's going to happen with any of them because, as before, people were coming and going. People, even the people who are closest to him, were sick of him. He's poison. So my guess is you're right. He'll go, but he'll go because he realized that he's taken the hemlock, and he doesn't like it now, and he'll just want to get the hell out, or he'll fight back. I don't know.
Yeah, that would be interesting. And what I find, uh, that Donald can. I know that. Bill assumed he would be hailed as a great peace. Yes, yeah. You know who else that bit in the ass? Two people, one of whom I admire. The one who I don't admire much. I'm not a fan of Gavin Newsom.
Right, you don't like
something. There's just something about him. I mean, I would need to meet him, right, before I could really judge. But there's just something that says "pretty boy." And
well, I'm going to ask you a question. I mean,
Sure.
it's a very simple question. I'm not saying that you
Right.
believe this, but is there any problem you have just simply because he's good looking?
I think that could enter into it. I
No,
mean,
for you,
that's what
for you. I mean,
No, that's what I mean. For me, that might enter into it.
because it is discrimination. Just because somebody's good looking, it's you can't necessarily say
No, but
fuck 'em.
what again? What he did is, and I still got a kind of reserved judgment, but I don't think it was admirable. He started a podcast, and his first guests were Steve Bannon and this, and I think what he was trying to do is he's going to run for president, and I think he mistakenly, what Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing is the way to gain the Democratic nomination. Unfortunately, like you said, Brian, Bernie is too old, and AOC is a woman and also kind of on the young side, right? So the other person, and she got blindsided, and I hope she learned her lesson, Gretchen Whitmer. Did you see? She goes to the White House. She just thinks it's going to be a meeting with Trump, and he calls a press conference and lists like 4 things that she opposed while she's sitting there that he signed. There's just no appeasing them. And I don't know why she went. I mean, again, I'm not privy to that. I think Gretchen Whitmer's certainly stood tall. But I think you can't appease Donald Trump. You should not appease Donald Trump. And you're not going to pull his people away by being Donald Trump light. It's not going to happen. So this is why I say I think Bernie and AOC have got an issue, economic inequality. It affects everybody, but certainly I would assume, and statistics bear this out, that probably there were less educated people who didn't vote than more educated people, in that group we're talking about. Well, the less educated, unfortunately, because of the capitalistic oligarchy society we have, they're struggling. They're really, really struggling. And so these foolish things that Donald Trump is trying to say are economic brilliance will hurt them more. So maybe they'll move over. But of course, Brian, you brought up, my thing is we got to make it to 2028. You pointed out that may not be enough because, or 2026, I mean, that might not be enough because we may not have fair elections.
Well, the only thing that I think
that's true
going to help us, Dave, is we were talking about the waffling, and you know that, I mean, you stated as much that this whole idea about this was his plan is complete bullshit. He doesn't know what he wants to do. He's going to back, and the fact that he backed off because China, held him to it. He said, okay, we'll fight you, because they know that the Chinese people, as a culture, they can hold out. Our people can't wait more than 2 minutes in a McDonald's line before they get upset that they have to wait there. So he turned it around immediately and said, okay, I'm going to get rid of the electronics tariffs. This guy,
it doesn't
it's
matter.
not a way to run a government. It's not a way to run a stock. What you have is a day trading stock market right now. And the average
Right.
person's not going to want to be involved in that kind of thing.
No, no. And, um, you're thinking, well, again, I rolled the dice. My cell phone was dying, my iPhone. I mean, really bad. And my
It was a
iPad was
legitimate worry.
following suit. So I decided to go out. Now I got good deals. Okay. Again, that's not what we're talking about. But I mean, I switched carriers. I'm not devoted to any one carrier. They gave me a free iPhone. All I had to pay was tax. I do that. I'm going to pay for some phone company. What do I? And now it's interesting. We were Verizon. Now we're AT&T. Verizon every day shooting emails. Please come back. We'll give you $500. No, 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 no. I got
Well,
my
AT&T
iPhone.
is not great either. I was with them, but they believe me, they for a long
Oh,
time.
well, I'm just.
None of them are.
But yeah, that's just what we're saying. None of them are.
You can switch and
And
switch. It just
no,
they're all
but
basically the same.
but then in that case, then I had enough money to get the iPad, right? But then of course, right after I get them both, Trump exempts.
Right.
Now, think about this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is not my area of expertise, economics. But he has said that one of the reasons for tariffs is to bring manufacturing or business back to America. Is that correct? That's what he said. I'm not saying
That's
it's
what
good.
he said. Yeah.
All right, stop right there because I'm going to make a point. All right, now do you realize? Just take what he did, taking away the tariffs on the computer parts. If you go to China and make a computer, right? There's no tariffs. If you get the computer parts from China and make it here, you've got tariffs. So it's actually anti-American. The other thing is, it is a non-starter for this reason. Some really good experts, I think, in another area that I'm not real well versed in technology, and more than confirmed that to get your average iPhone, right, or top iPhone, not your low class, but that same iPhone manufactured in the U.S., if it could be done, would be $3,500.
That's correct. I saw that too. Dave, I want to make another comment
sure.
too, and I'd like you to, if you want to chime in, that's fine. And
Sure.
and this is about the stock market and just in general the idea of the stock market. For those of you who are unaware, in the stock market, there's something called the primary market, and then there's the secondary market. The primary market is when you have an IPO, an initial purchase offer of a company that wants to sell stock. So you give money to them, you own stock, and they'll use that money usually for research and development or whatever they need to do. But after it's sold one time, that's over with. It then moves to the secondary market where people who own the shares will trade with each other. So there's no real production, nothing going into R&D when you get to the secondary market. So most likely the stocks that you buy are going to be rebought and resold over and over and over again, but nothing is going to lead to helping the economy. And this is what I say is that if we play this game, especially because most of it's in the secondary market, the stock exchanges generally don't produce anything. It's the profit is made on other people. Your people making profit on people. And when you have these type of markets where one day it's up and one day it's down, and somebody's making $200 million in one day and they're doing absolutely nothing, there you're going to see a collapse of an economy eventually. Anyway, it's just going to speed it up. And if you want to challenge me, folks, you can. But
No.
this is a really a rude awakening for what's happening now.
I think somewhat along those lines. Well, let me do it this way. Next week, I'm going to pick it up. It just came out. Two really good writers from D.C. have brought out a book proving that Joe Biden would be incapable of holding the presidency. That it was a cover-up in the sense that, they made excuses for him and all that. But even if that isn't part of it, I think one of Joe Biden's mistakes was talking about this great economy in the world when you have 35-year-olds who are going home to live with mom because they can't afford things. And so once again, you had the two Americans, right? You had the America of, yeah, it's doing pretty well, right? But you also had a larger America, which, no, it isn't. And I was talking to another young person. She was, 26? a librarian, and she was talking about her friends. She said, "None of us know. We just don't know. We can't afford. She said, I didn't think at 26 I'd be living with 3 roommates. That wasn't my plan, right?
Right.
So there's a lot. I think. Okay, let me do it this way. I'll close this way for me. There's a lot to be frightened about. Fascism is frightening, and ladies and gentlemen,
That's number one.
we are not a democracy. We are in early stage fascism. Now
Right.
it's just like an early stage cancer. If you're going to stop it, it's better before it gets to stage 4, right?
Right.
So again, using Mario Savio, gum up the works, the great activist. That's one thing. But while we're there are a lot of encouraging things that people are doing, creative things. I ran across a group I did not know about. Maybe everybody out there, maybe I was late to the party. I don't think so. There's a nationwide group now called Third Act. Have you ever heard of them? I had not until I ran across them. What Third Act is, and they've been really active for a while. It's not a new group. It's senior citizens who take up the cause, and they actually started, Brian, right along your concern. They were an environmental concern group first, and now they've moved into the political realm. One of my favorite signs at the protest on the 5th was, an older woman has a sign, "Now you pissed off grandma." And, older people, we say, but grandmothers, grandfathers, they still have some weight in families. And they're going to get out there. I know, Brian, you said, and it was a valid concern. And it's interesting. You were kind of even before the trend. A lot of people this week were writing about the aging of the protesters, right? On the 5th. But again, 2 things. Number one, the biggest issues right now that's been hit are twofold. One is immigrants, being deported, and the other is the threat to Social Security and Medicare. And so it doesn't surprise me. The young people will come along. There was a protest in Georgetown University last week. Now it's last week, Friday. And because seven Georgetown students had their visas taken, so they'll be deported. I'd never want to be Donald Trump, but if I had visions of a 3rd term as president, I think 2 things came up that may make that impossible. One is I think there'll be more people hating Trump. He's already dropped 14 points on a favorable, unfavorable poll. So he's picked up 14 points more unfavorable than the day he took office. So I think that will continue. But the other thing was mentioned earlier on the show tonight. I forget who, Gary. I mentioned put it. If you run for a 3rd term, we might see Barack Obama against Donald Trump. That would be
if the voting machines and the vote counting machines are the way
all I understand. I mean, we can't eliminate that. We can't. But I just don't see. I don't see. I guess I'm saying it this way. I don't see Trump and his administration. This might be the high point for them already. I just don't see. It's been a year since I went to a library, but I know what you're saying, Tony, about the same there. No reading, most in front of a screen. Yeah, well, and that, I know we're over a little bit, but I just want to comment on what T-Bone just said. Most of the political columnists that I admire and trust, they say the biggest single group contributing to Donald Trump's victory was young white males, and who are part of the bro culture, and they get all of their news from podcasts like Joe Rogan and others. But here's why I say that I just don't see Donald Trump winning. Do you realize that I didn't see anything about this? I just saw computers and cell phones. China makes the majority, and Vietnam make the majority of the gaming machines, and Japan, right? For us.
Are you talking about for casinos?
No, gaming, video games.
Oh, video games, okay.
Machines. And I know that is something that young men do. In fact, I've talked to some women who said that they believe that some of the young men who try to date them would rather play a video game than have sex with them. That's that's how, I mean, they're really in this culture. Well, if Trump messes with those and those prices go up, what happens? So we'll be back next week,
Right.
I assume. Lord willing, the creek don't rise. So, Brian, I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to be quiet for a minute. And then you can answer next week. Now, you're going to put on a crystal ball, which you don't have. But given everything, do you think you'll be more optimistic or more pessimistic next week? And I know that's a very unfair question, but just what you see circulating around there, what do you think?
Well, it's so frenetic. To generalize is so difficult, Dave. But if I had to choose, I know one thing: my negativity has not lessened in roughly 9 years. So my
I'm smiling
suggestion
because
would be that it will be worse, and it
And
can
I
get
think-
worse. You say we're in the
no-
beginning stages. We're
Yeah,
only
that's-
waiting for what's next, and that'll be it. So, well, Dave, listen, I'm going to shut down now because I'm going to have to go
Yeah.
on, get to sleep and all that.
But by the way, everybody, I wasn't supposed to say this. He threatened me.
Don't.
But guess who's a year older?
Don't say that.
The guy on the left there, Brian, 65.
That would be correct.
Shit, I've got socks older than you.
All right. And a shout out to Joey Fulcher, who is now 93 years old. Okay. Thanks, Dad. Okay.
Thanks everybody for watching.
All right,
and,
Dave. Thank you, and we'll see
And
you
thank
next
you
week.
also. Thank you also for your comments.
Okay.
That's kind of what makes the show.
Right.
I mean, I'm not real interested in what
And
I say.
we'll get to them next week too. All right. See
All
ya.
right.